Hey guys, welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and we're again joined by Derek Binder to discuss even more about the latest Mario Kart 8 trailer from December's Nintendo Direct. So let's get right into it. Alright Derek, so we just posted another analysis just a day or two ago, using fan theories about Mario Kart 8, about things that we somehow missed in the latest trailer. From our previous analysis, because there was a ton of stuff there, and I was amazed by how much even our fans uncovered that we overlooked. Now, I do want to mention that we actually already recorded this discussion once, but we discovered something after recording it that kind of changes a lot of what we talked about, which is why we're re-recording it. And it actually changes some of the things that we talked about even in the discussion. Now, one of the big things that we point out in the analysis is that the characters can now hold items in the game, which is kind of a throwback to Double Dash, which is the only other time in the series, at least if you ignore the Japanese arcade games, or even actually the Mario Kart arcade games in general, but some of them did come here in the States. But yeah, they actually hold the items again this time. And I took that as maybe they're changing how the items are going to work. And I base that on the fact that we didn't really see them use, drag items behind them at all in the trailer, unlike how they worked at E3. However, I've since discovered there is one point in the trailer where you actually do see Mario for like just 4 or 5 frames dragging a Koopa shell behind him, which which changes everything.
Theory ruined.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to, talk about that a little bit, and how this might, and how some of the ideas from the analysis might still hold true, and how it may not be that big of a change as well at the same time. So basically what this means to me is that the holding item mechanic, it might be more of a cosmetic thing than I initially thought, where it seems like you may just hold onto the items until you actually activate them, at which point they act basically as they did in not just the E3 demo at, of Mario Kart 8, but also in, Mario Kart in general, where, once they activated, the items either drag behind you, or you shoot them ahead of you, or they start orbiting your cart, in the case of triple items. So in that sense, I don't think that much is changing. However, what I do think could mean is that they might still be incorporating some Double Dash elements here, because in Double Dash, one of the, by holding the item, by actually seeing the item being held, it also made it vulnerable to being stolen from your opponents, if they rocketed into you with a mushroom or a star. So I think that could still be the case here too, as we theorized in the analysis. But before I go too far off on this tangent, what's your take on all this? What do you think on, on our ideas from the analysis and the fact that we now know they'll still drag items behind them too at certain points?
I mean, it doesn't change much. I mean, in our original discussion, we were talking about how kind of cool this was because they're adding a bit more strategy to Mario Kart with the whole fact that you had to time it, and we talked about the whole maybe the items will show up on the gamepad and you got to glance down, sort of like a rearview mirror type style thing, and all these other possibilities that could have come from the fact that we hold on to the items in the hand rather than drag them behind. And it's kind of stinks that that's gone, but on the same token, it's not that big of a change. I mean, it doesn't hurt the game at all, in my opinion. It's just sort of a wish list thing that's not getting granted for us. I mean, yeah, it kind of stinks that you won't be able to, have a bit more strategy there. But I think since they've used this tactic since Double Dash, or every game after Double Dash, it's probably something that's pretty well established. But as you said, we could still maybe steal items from one another just by bashing into them, which would be a nice sort of balance between the two. So I don't think it's all bad, but it is kind of disappointing that the ideas that we had, both in the analysis and the previous discussion, aren't going to be actually implemented.
Yeah, I mean, that does seem to be the case. Based on those darn 4 or 5 frames of Mario dragging that Koopa shell behind them. Because, yeah, I was actually really excited to go back to a Double Dash style system of item management, where deflecting items or blocking against items actually required skill, in timing timing, dropping an item behind you to block an incoming projectile. But now, we know that you can just drag items behind you as you always can. And that's fine, that's served Mario Kart, fine over the years. It's just, it's just nothing new. So really the only thing new that we know for sure is that cosmetically they will hold the item. And I'm hoping it means that you can steal them again, but we don't know if that's going to be the case or not. Yeah, so, it is a little bit disappointing. I was really excited for those changes to be the case. Or rather, I was really excited for that to represent some change to the item system, but, that's not the case. Alright, but enough talk about that, because there was a lot of other details in the analysis that, thankfully, haven't been disproven. Now, granted, with that said, a lot of these ideas are pretty far out there, but, they could plausibly still be true. So one of the things that one of our viewers pointed out is that the airlines, the 3 airlines we see, maybe might hint at upcoming items for the game. And, there's nothing concrete about that, of course, we're just spitballing, but we haven't seen any new items at all in the game, so it's really the best thing we have to go off of. So one of the airlines is, like Toad Propeller Transport, and the icon is of a Toad wearing a propeller suit from the new Super Mario Bros. Series. And I think that could be a really cool item if that finds its way into the game. To me, I feel like it could be a return to how the feather worked in the original Mario Kart. Way back on the Super Nintendo, which allowed you to jump over projectiles or even access shortcuts that you couldn't otherwise. And it also, I could see it being used if you drive off a ledge by mistake, and you can just fly back up and back onto the track. It just to me seems to have a lot of potential, and really open up, not just a track design, but just, also making an item feel really unique. Because that's something we haven't seen since the original game.
Yeah, you're right, and it will fundamentally act different than the feather item from Super Mario Kart because of the whole fact that we're both flying in the air and going underwater in Mario Kart 8. So not only does it have to have advantages on land, as you said there, maybe it could just work exactly like the cape and allow you to jump over items or approach shortcuts or stuff like that. It has to have some sort of method for the other modes of transport. And I'm kind of curious what those could be. I'm trying to think off the top of my head right now. It's just, of course, you just think a quick boost of air. So maybe underwater there's a platform that you can maybe reach to get out of the water and go quicker, and you use the propeller suit to get up to that platform. Mm-hmm. Or in the air you just use it for a sort of greater mobility and change up your height or avoid obstacles or whatever else might be around. It's hard to say, but the whole concept of the propeller suit is pretty interesting, and it makes me curious what kind of ways they could use this item for. Yeah,
I think it really would make for a very unique item, to be in the game. The only reason why I think it may not be a thing, besides the fact that we just made it out of whole cloth, basically, is the fact that I think the anti-gravity section may work against that idea, just because, you're already getting, this intricate track design that goes all over the place, and I feel like the propeller suit could work against that at points. For instance, what happens if you're in an anti-gravity section and you jump off of it, using the propeller suit, and you touch another part of the track? What happens then? Do you just go, do you drop on that track then? Or, I don't know how they would resolve that. I'm sure they could. It just seems like this may not be the best game to bring the propeller suit as an item into it. But I think the idea has a ton of potential, and it'd be awesome to see at some point in the series, if not this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a lot of fun.
Now, going off the airline idea, another suggested item based on that is what is hinted at by the Boomerang Brothers international airline, and that being potentially a boomerang item, and I think that'd be awesome. Now we already, in our previous discussion, we already talked about this, the one that we didn't air. So I'm not gonna pretend that we're just making this up as we go. But you had a really cool idea for how this item might work, if there is in fact a boomerang in this game.
Yes, I got it from one of the users, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Well, we mentioned him in the analysis. Or wait, is this the same one? Oh, no, it's not. This is a new user. That's right.
This is a new user. His name, I believe, began with Cell, but I can't remember the rest. You know who you are, though. Basically, his idea is that the boomerang could act like the boos from like Mario Kart 64 and Mario Kart DS, and then it would steal items from other players. Except the Boomerang could have, we sort of extrapolated from there, and the Boomerang could have greater potential than the boo, because it could not only steal the item, but of course crash your opponent, and potentially allow you to throw the Boomerang in any way you want, not just forward or backward, and having it returned to you. But like, let's say there's a guy coming up on your side, and you can toss the Boomerang to your side and take him out that way.
Yeah, I think that would be freaking awesome. Like, that's something we haven't seen before, like having the item come back to you and having it function as being able to, you know, steal other people's items as a throwback to the original Boo item, which we haven't seen in several, you know, since Mario Kart DS. I think that'd be a really, really interesting application for this item, especially, you know, if you had full control of, you know, where to throw it, as you mentioned. It would just be a really, you know, again, it'd be just a really unique thing, and I'd be totally on board for that.
Yeah, it's one of those items that seems to have like a lot of potential uses, which makes it, you know, interesting for the you know, for potential items, because that's what they seem to do anymore, is try to come up with items that have multiple ways of using things. Sometimes they keep it simple, like with the bloopers and the whole covering ink on your screen type thing. Other times they go a bit more complex by having each character have their own unique kind of special item. So, you know, they could go any way with this, but as an idea, I think it holds water and it could work.
Yeah, especially because, you know, that item has been in the most recent Mario games, being Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World. So it would make a lot of sense to draw upon, you know, those games, which, you know, for inspiration for new items, especially because they did that with Mario Kart 7, where they brought in the Tanuki suit from, you know, which they brought back in New Super Mario Bros. 2. So yeah, it just makes a ton of sense to go that route, and yeah, I'd love to see them just, you know, go kind of crazy with some of these new items. Because I feel like the last few new items we've had in the Mario Kart series have been kind of whatever, you know. I like to see them just kind of, you know, just do something like kind of off the wall with them, and the Boomerang would be the closest thing to that, I think.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
So that's two potential new items, but, you know, based on the trailer. But I want to get your thoughts on, you know, any new items you think, you know, do you have any ideas for, you know, items you'd like to see in this game? You know, whether, you know, an idea you have based on the Mario game or just something entirely new in general.
You know, I was, you know, thinking about this, and one that came most readily to me is, you know, of course you got the most recent game being 3D World, and you think of the items that would work best there from that game, and I think the one that works best to me is the double cherry item. Because it could have two potential uses. One, it could just double up the item that you have, so you start out with just one super mushroom, or even just one star, and all of a sudden you have 2 stars or 2 super mushrooms to use. So it could be rare, unpredictable, and highly powerful if you get it. The other potential that it could do is literally doubling your cart and having 2 forms of you, and that way you can take an extra hit, and because in 3D World, no matter which of the characters got hit from the double cherry was the one that disappeared first, so you never had to worry about keeping track of the original. Maybe they could add that whole aspect in to try to confuse opponents or whatnot. So I think that double cherry could see it be complicated to implement, just because you already have so many races on the screen, and now you're adding potentially, you know, 2 of the same type, maybe even 3 of the same type if you keep getting the double cherry and lucky enough to do that. But I think it would be interesting, a very interesting, unique item to put into the game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That would be really cool. I love the double cherry from Super Mario 3D World, and it would be awesome if they made that an item. Yeah, there are several applications I could see for this. Like, especially if you can, like, mix and match, you know, the double cherry with other items. Like, if you had, like, 2 side-by-side carts and you both have stars, how you like, this roaming wall of stars coming down the racetrack.
Oh, God, that'd be both terrifying if you were the guy not being a star. Amazing if you were the guy that had the star.
Yeah, exactly. Or what if you got another double cherry? You know, while you have a double cherry, so you have like four, just coming down, with all with stars.
Oh God.
That would be awesome. No, I think it'd be a really cool idea. I'm sure it'll take there's so many ways they can implement that, and I'm sure it'd take a lot of testing to get that just right. But yeah, or even just being able to absorb a second hit, as you mentioned, that would be very beneficial as well. Yeah, I think it'd be a cool idea to figure out how to get that to work exactly. Yeah, that'd be a really fun one to see. Okay, so that covers, basically all the new, things of the core game. But are there any, new features you'd like to see added to this game? Because we haven't really, again, seen or even know that much about it. I mean, we know it's Mario Kart, and we played a bit of AE3, but, they could add new things as well. So is there any new features you'd like to see added to the game?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, as you said, all we really know about is the core gameplay, so you can sort of just expect it to work just like before, where it's just Grand Prix mode, going through all the cups, unlocking more, getting more characters, that sort of thing, and one would imagine that it has an online mode just like Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 7, because Mario Kart has traditionally been some of the best online gameplay you can expect from a Nintendo console. So extrapolating from that, I would love to see, and this harkens back to our whole discussion about bringing elements from Double Dash in, essentially a Double Dash mode where
gotta be awesome.
Players would randomly just be either you can team up with your friends if you already have friends online with you, or just matched up randomly and have two characters on each card, have special cards set up just for this mode, and race together and sort of bring back that whole concept of Double Dash and making it just maybe not even in the single player but exclusively multiplayer to try to get even more players involved, like the good old 16-person LAN party option that you had with Double Dash.
That would be awesome, because playing LAN and Double Dash is one of my favorite memories I've had playing multiplayer. Like, it was such a fun thing to do, even if an impractical thing to do. But now that online is, now that Nintendo's actually doing online, it's something you could do, they could easily do now, and it would be freaking awesome. Yeah, I would love to have a Double Dash mode. Like, that way it would appeal to people who, it would appeal to people who are fans of Double Dash without conflicting with people who weren't a huge fan of that style of gameplay, which I don't understand, because that's by far my favorite Mario Kart game.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, I think the fact that we now know that you can drag items behind you kind of dashes those hopes, just because the item system in Double Dash was so different in that how you couldn't drag items behind you. No, it's possible, they couldn't, I guess, combine those elements, or actually change up how it works in a Double Dash mode. I just think it's unlikely. What would be cool though is if they treated Double Dash as its own series, like that way they get two Mario Karts out per generation, everyone wins, and we get our Double Dash, our Double Dash sequel, which would be awesome. But they found some way to combine, the elements of Double Dash with Mario Kart as most people know it now. As a secondary mode, that'd be really cool. My only concern is it may not get the attention I feel it deserves. People may just ignore it at that point. Like, what if you go online and no one's playing Double Dash mode? And
yeah, that'd be unfortunate. But you kind of expect. I mean, when we talk about video, when we did some of these other Mario Kart videos, I saw a bunch of comments where people love Double Dash, especially with the cool bits you recently did.
Right.
So I have a feeling it wouldn't be a completely dead mode at the very least. It should have some fans in there wanting to play.
Yeah. Now, I think it would do pretty well. And I would love to see them do something along those lines. I just feel like Nintendo has no incentive to do that, because it would require more effort, and I don't know if it would be worth it. I don't know if they can justify that. Which is why just make Double Dash 2 Nintendo, and that'd be awesome. So, do you have any final thoughts at all, Derek, on Mario Kart 8? Anything we haven't talked about, or any other features you'd like to see added, or anything else at all?
I can't really come up with any new features, but I guess the idea I just sort of came up with is, like, what about new characters? Are there any new characters you'd like to see pop up in the game?
So yeah, I mean, I guess for me, like, we talked about this before, but getting back to like the Smash Brothers, the Rosalina trailer, like, at first, I thought it was a new Kirby game, Then I thought it might have been like a Mario Kart game with Nintendo characters. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Now, I don't know if I actually want to see that at all, but it got me excited. And I think having maybe like, not necessarily turning into a Smash Kart type game, but having, maybe bringing in, a guest star or two from a different series, could be a fun way to mix it up.
I think Kirby would, of course, be the biggest potential for that, just because they already showed him together. Kirby's been in a kart racer type game before.
Right.
He has a mode of transportation, and you could see it working for him in all the different elements.
Yeah, exactly. That would almost make too much sense. Besides that, there's not really any... I'm trying to think of any other characters that I personally want to see, and they've already covered it pretty well with, across all the Mario Kart games. How about you?
I think they have a couple... I think they have 3 big potential ones here, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but has Boom Boom ever been a kart racer before?
He has not, and actually, I'm going to hijack that one, because I want that.
So, yeah, Boom Boom would be a perfect one. Of course, bring in Pom Pom, because if we have Toadette in there, we can't have, gotta have Pom Pom.
Yeah.
If we have Boom Boom.
Otherwise.
Exactly. Nabbit, of course, is a pretty big potential one, just because he's popped up in quite a few games here, and I think it just works.
Yep.
Though, don't let him have his ability to ignore obstacles. That'd be
a little bit too much.
Yeah, unless you want to make him like Ghost Mode or something like that. But personally, I don't know if as a character but just some way to integrate him in some way there. But what's his name? King Hiss or something like that from 3D World.
Yeah,
the one boss that bounced all the plates off and had the great music track. If only so we can have his great music track remixed for Mario Kart. Love to see that him integrated in some way, whether it's a character or stage obstacle or something to that effect.
Well, that could actually make a really awesome stage. I feel like if they had an arena based on that, it could be like a circuit. You could have like a circus theme do it, and you could have those snakes actually function as platforms. Like they do in the boss battle. So, like, what if, like they could pop up at various points, and you'd have to adjust your route, on the fly to, maybe choose a proper path. Or even if you have, like, someone on your tail, like with a boss fight, if you stay on a plate too long or drive over too much, like, maybe that plate will shatter, and, that would screw up the opponent behind you, preventing them from using it as a platform.
Yeah, exactly. You see a plate that's cracked, you run over that plate, so the guy behind you doesn't have a plate, he gets eaten or something like that.
That'd be freaking awesome, especially if they had that awesome music you mentioned from that level.
Exactly.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
That's what I really want, but the level concept you have there is really great too. But yeah, I think he would work well in some capacity for Mario Kart 8.
I totally agree. I just wanted, whatever new stuff they can bring into the game would be awesome, and it seems like they're doing a pretty good job so far mixing it up. At least as much as they can by conventional Mario Kart standards, if not quite as much as we hoped from our most recent analysis. Alright, well, I think that wraps up our Mario Kart 8 discussion, so thanks guys for watching. If you like this discussion, please make sure to follow us and like us on Facebook and Twitter. You can find links to them in the description below. We post all kinds of things there. It's a good way to keep up to date with everything we post. And of course, keep an eye on GameXplain.com for more on Mario Kart 8 and everything else gaming as well. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.